So if you look really closely at a digital photograph, you eventually hit the pixels.
Right, the grid.
Exactly. It's just a grid. Tiny, rigid, perfectly square little boxes of color. But when you go to a museum and look at a classic oil painting, there are no squares.
Yeah, you don't see those sharp edges.
Right. You zoom in and you see the texture of the canvas, the fluid, continuous sweep of the brush strokes. The paint actually has physical mass to it.
It's an unbroken reality.
Yes, an unbroken, continuous reality. And that brings us to audio. I mean, digital music gave us the ultimate convenience, right? Millions of songs in your pocket without ever having to clean a stylus.
But audiophiles have always chased that oil painting reality.
Exactly, because standard digital audio often sounds exactly like those rigid little pixels. It sounds flat, clinical, and it just lacks the physical weight of the original performance.
The community actually refers to that as digititis.
Digititis.
Yeah, it's that slightly harsh, overly processed sound signature. It subtly tells your brain you are listening to a computer generating a file, rather than, a living, breathing human being singing right in front of you.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. We have a huge stack of sources on the table for you today. Technical spec sheets, retail data from the Lyric Audio Elite store, highly detailed audiophile community reviews, and a frankly fascinating teardown video by the YouTube reviewer Jays Iyagi.
A really revealing video, too.
Oh, absolutely. The subject of all this scrutiny is the Denafrips Pontus 15th Anniversary Edition. It's an R-2R digital to analog converter, or DAC. And our mission today is to uncover whether this heavy silver box actually bridges the gap between digital convenience and analog soul.
We need to see if it lives up to the massive hype.
Right. We want to find out if the stellar build quality, the sound signature, and the incredible value for money actually justify its reputation in the high-end audio space. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really understand the buzz around this specific piece of gear, we need to look at its overarching philosophy first.
Okay, where do we start?
Well, in a modern landscape that is just dominated by Delta Sigma chips and aggressive oversampling algorithms, the Pontus 15th is striving for absolute analog purity.
Analog purity.
Yeah. The goal isn't just data extraction. The goal is to reconstruct the analog wave so flawlessly that the listener experiences the natural, fluid, human qualities of a live performance. And to achieve that, Denafrips had to make some highly unusual manufacturing decisions.
And we really have to start with what is actually inside this box, because that teardown video from Jays Iyagi reveals a massive surprise regarding the value proposition here.
It was a huge surprise.
Because, tech companies absolutely love the incremental update playbook.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They tweak the font on the chassis and maybe swap out a minor resistor, slap the words Anniversary Edition on the front, and charge a massive premium. It's usually just a cash grab. So my immediate question was whether this 15th Anniversary Edition is just a shiny new sticker on an old machine.
And honestly, Jays Iyagi had that exact same skepticism in his video.
I don't blame him.
But the teardown completely dismantles that fear. During the video, he actually peels back a physical sticker inside the chassis. And underneath, the printed circuit board reveals something unprecedented.
Wait, what was under it?
It is literally the DSP board and the upgraded CRA capacitors pulled directly from the Denafrips Venus 12th generation.
The Venus, for anyone tracking the Denafrips lineup, the Venus is a flagship level DA that retails for around $4,000.
Exactly.
And the Pontus 15th retails for roughly $2,000 or about 2,285 euros. So buyers are basically getting $4,000 internal architecture at a 50% discount.
It's an incredible value for money.
Yeah. But let's dig into the mechanics of those components. What are the CRA capacitors and that DSP board actually doing for the sound quality?
Let's start with the CRA capacitors. A capacitor essentially acts as a localized energy reservoir for the circuit.
Okay.
So when your music has a sudden, explosive dynamic shift, like a massive orchestral crescendo or really sharp snare drum hit, the DA needs an instantaneous dump of clean electrical power to render that transient perfectly.
Right, and standard capacitors lag a bit.
Exactly, they can lag slightly. But the CRA capacitors from the Venus line offer incredibly low equivalent series resistance, or ESR.
Which means what exactly?
It means they discharge their energy with blistering speed, and that translates to a much faster, tighter, and more dynamic sound.
Oh, I see. And what about the DSP board they swapped in?
So the digital signal processing board is the brain of the operation. It handles the incoming data routing, the clock management, and the proprietary oversampling algorithms before the signal ever hits the resistor ladder. By porting over the Venus DSP board, Denafrips gave the Pontus 15th the exact same computational headroom and processing power as their $4,000 flagship.
The teardown also highlights that the internal wiring connecting that motherboard to the power supply has been upgraded to pure silver, right? Which minimizes impedance.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
But the real star of the show here is the genuine balanced R-2R ladder network matrix. I mean, most modern DACs rely on tiny, mass-produced delta sigma chips that use complex math to kind of guess and smooth out the audio wave.
Right.
The Pontus 15th uses a literal physical ladder of hundreds of tiny resistors to build the analog voltage step by step.
What's fascinating here is the sheer precision required to make that architecture work.
It sounds incredibly complicated.
It is. To prevent distortion, those hundreds of resistors had to be perfectly identical. The Pontus 15th utilizes resistors matched to an accuracy of 0.05%.
Wow.
Yeah. Historically, achieving that level of microscopic precision is why R-2R DACs cost an absolute fortune.
So they've managed to trickle down a hyper-accurate flagship R-2R engine and a massive processing headroom into a mid-tier chassis. But a hypersensitive resistor ladder matched to a 0.05% tolerance is incredibly fragile when it comes to electrical interference, isn't it?
Oh, extremely fragile.
Right, because if the physical environment it lives in is flooded with electromagnetic noise, standard wall power hum, or vibration, that ultra-precise signal gets completely buried. It's like you can't put a Formula One engine on a dirt road.
That's a great analogy. The environment is everything. Electrical noise masks the micro details in the music and just flattens the soundstage. And that brings us to the extreme build quality of this unit.
Which is heavily praised in all the sources.
Denafrips tackled the noise floor issue through pure brute force and meticulous physical isolation.
Started with the chassis itself. I mean, this thing is a vault.
It really is.
It's built out of a thick metal alloy and weighs in at a massive 11 kilograms. That's over 24 pounds. Jay-Z Augie jokes that you could throw it into the next room and it would survive.
I wouldn't recommend testing that.
No, probably not. But beyond just being heavy, the interior relies on a box-in-box architecture.
Right. They have physically isolated the sensitive DAC motherboard, which sits on the top, from the massive linear power supply shielded on the bottom.
So that physical steel barrier prevents the electromagnetic radiation generated by the power supply from bleeding upward into those delicate resistor ladders.
Exactly. But they didn't stop there. Most high-end audio gear uses toroidal transformers to handle power.
And we know toroidal transformers have inherent mechanical flaws. Because of how they're wound, they vibrate on a microscopic level.
Well, they hum.
They hum, and they emit stray magnetic flux. If you put a sensitive audio cable near a toroidal transformer, it will pick up that hum.
Which is precisely why Denafrips engineered dual O-ring transformers for the Pontus 15th.
How does an O-ring differ from a toroidal?
Well, unlike a standard toroidal, an O-ring core is wound from a continuous gapeless strip of silicon steel. Because there's no mechanical break in the core, the magnetic lines of flux cannot leak out. The transformer completely contains its own magnetic field.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it produces zero mechanical vibration and ultra-low magnetic radiation.
So by combining a 24-pound metal alloy housing, the dual shielded box-in-box architecture, and those gapeless O-ring transformers, they essentially sterilize the internal environment.
Sterilize is the perfect word for it.
Reviewers in the sources refer to the result as an immaculate background. The noise floor drops so completely that the space between the notes becomes pitch black. Suddenly, the microscopic details like the decay of a cymbal or the reverberation of a recording studio wall emerge because they just aren't competing with electrical hum.
That absolute silence is a hallmark of elite build quality. But, achieving a pristine internal environment is only half the battle.
Right.
The next critical bottleneck is getting the digital data from your streamer or your computer into the DSE without mangling the timing.
And the sources are very specific about this part. While the Pontus 15th offers a multitude of inputs, like coaxial, optical, standard USB, the reviewers universally point to the I2S connection via HDMI as the golden path.
The golden path, yeah.
Let's break down why. If we look at a standard USB connection, it's essentially a single congested assembly line. You are throwing both the actual audio data and the clock signal, which is the instruction manual telling the DC when to play that data down the exact same conveyor belt.
And the DSE has to unpack and sort those elements in real time.
Exactly.
And that real-time sorting process is highly susceptible to jitter.
Which is a timing error.
Right. If the audio data arrives even a fraction of a microsecond late or early, the analog wave smears. The bass loses its punch, and the high notes become brittle and harsh.
So how does the I2S protocol solve this?
It solves it by completely separating the tasks.
Using an HDMI cable, but strictly for audio data, right? Not video.
Correct. The I2S connection dedicates physically separate lanes inside the cable for the audio data and the clock signal.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the Pontus 15th takes it a step further by utilizing LVDS low-voltage differential signaling.
Which is just a brilliant piece of engineering. Instead of sending a single electrical pulse down the wire, LVDS sends the audio signal twice. Once normally and once inverted as an exact mirror image.
Right. When the signals arrive at the DSE, it flips the inverted signal back over and combines them.
And if the cable picked up any electrical interference or noise along the way, that noise is present on both wires.
Exactly. So when the DC combines the mirrored signals, the math literally cancels the noise out completely, leaving nothing but mathematically perfect data.
Reviewers noted that utilizing the I2S LVDS connection resulted in a drastically wider soundstage, greater depth, and an incredibly solid sense of rhythm.
It's the best way to feed the machine.
Okay, so you feed the machine perfect, jitter-free, noise-canceled data. How does the internal hardware physically manage that data before sending it to the resistors?
Well, the spec sheets detail an adaptive FIFO buffer paired with dual encapsulated LP&O crystal oscillators.
Let's look at the mechanism of that FIFO buffer first. FIFO stands for first in, first out, right?
Yes. It basically acts as a digital parking lot.
A parking lot, okay.
Yeah. Instead of the data trying to convert the data the exact millisecond it arrives from your computer, it stores all the incoming audio data in a high-speed memory bank.
So it isolates the data from the chaotic timing of the source device.
Exactly. Once the data is parked safely in the buffer, the DAV completely ignores the clock signal from your computer.
Oh, wow.
Instead, it uses its own internal LP&O clocks, low-phase noise oscillators. These oscillators act as ultra-precise, totally isolated metronomes.
And the Pontus 15th uses two of them, right?
Yeah, a 45.1548 megahertz clock dedicated entirely to standard audio rates, and a 49.152 megahertz clock dedicated to high-resolution files. The buffer releases the parked data to the resistor ladder, dictated strictly by the flawless timing of these internal oscillators.
And the user actually has control over how that data is processed, which is so cool. There are two distinct sonic profiles, NOS mode and OS mode.
For an audience accustomed to tweaking their gear, the mechanical difference between these two modes is vital.
Let's talk about OS mode first.
OS mode applies oversampling. It uses the DSP board to run advanced algorithms that multiply the sampling rate, applying digital filters to push ultrasonic noise far beyond the range of human hearing.
So oversampling results in a highly defined, clean, and structured sound.
Right. If your stereo system features incredibly warm tube amplifiers and needs a bit more focus and precision, OS mode provides that tightly controlled architecture.
But the downside of oversampling filters is that they can introduce phase shifts and pre-ringing artifacts, right? Tiny echoes that occur just before a transient note hits.
Exactly. And that ringing is what causes digital glare.
Which is why NOS mode non-oversampling is so heavily praised in the sources. NOS mode completely bypasses the digital filters. It preserves the exact phase coherence and time domain accuracy of the original file.
By prioritizing time domain accuracy over frequency filtering, NOS mode eliminates those ringing artifacts entirely.
And the resulting sound signature is universally described as fluid, direct, and organic.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this adaptability ensures the Ds can seamlessly integrate into almost any system. It doesn't force a single sonic flavor onto your setup. It gives you the mechanical tools to balance your room.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We've dissected the elite $4,000 internals, the 24-pound EMI-shielded vault, the O-ring transformers, the flawless I2S data path, but audio equipment is not a spreadsheet.
No, it's not.
The ultimate metric is whether this machine delivers an emotional experience. What is the actual consensus regarding sound quality, customer satisfaction, and its acceptance by the notoriously picky audiophile community?
The reception documented across the retail pages and community forums is overwhelmingly positive. It is highly accepted by the audiophile community. The Pontus 15th is widely regarded as a benchmark for the price-to-performance ratio.
Listeners repeatedly highlight the D's ability to achieve that elusive analog purity.
Yes, reading through the verified buyer reviews from the Lyric Audio Elite store, the specific characteristics of the sound quality become very clear.
What are they saying?
Reviewers note the DXC is never artificially bright or fatiguing. It creates an incredibly dense, three-dimensional soundstage.
Right, they point out how it renders delicate female vocals with a profound sweetness, while maintaining absolute control and authority over the low-end bass frequencies. The instruments actually have physical weight in the room.
The reviews also emphasize the profound emotional impact of the gear. One of the most telling anecdotes in the sources comes from a verified customer named Manuel Berta.
Oh, I love this one.
He subjected the DAC to what the community affectionately calls the girlfriend test.
Yes. Manuel writes that when he hauled this massive 24-pound silver box into the living room, his partner gave him a deeply skeptical look.
It's the classic reaction to bringing home yet another expensive piece of audio equipment.
Oh, totally. But the reaction changed the moment the music started playing. He notes that the analog realism, the sheer physical presence of the music, was so drastically different from standard digital glare that his partner actually sat down and actively engaged with the listening session.
She openly admitted that this specific upgrade crossed a sonic threshold they hadn't previously reached with their speakers,
Concluding that the investment was entirely justified. When a piece of gear can break through the skepticism of a casual listener and compel them to sit and listen, the engineering is doing its job.
and the enthusiast community echoes that sentiment. Another verified buyer, Antonio Martin, detailed his transition from a highly respected American-made Delta Sigma DIC, the Sheet Bifrost.
And what did he think?
He explicitly praised the Pontus 15th for injecting a specific soul and analog warmth into his system that the previous unit lacked.
And the professional reviewers validate the consumer experience. In the teardown video, Jay-Z Aggie states that the Pontus 15th delivers the most spacious, airy soundstage with microscopic nuance that he has ever heard at the $2,000 price point.
He even points out that its vocal realism bested dedicated tube chases, like the Doge 7.
Which is a massive statement. I mean, vacuum tubes naturally produce even-order harmonic distortion, which our brains interpret as warmth and realism. For a purely solid-state R-2R machine to beat a dedicated tubey DAC at its own game, that proves the efficacy of those 0.05% matched resistors.
The level of community acceptance the Pontus 15th has achieved is rare.
Mm-hmm.
But, we do have to address how Denafrips actually managed to deliver this value, because the corporate strategy behind it caused significant drama in the audio space.
Oh, right.
Denafrips recently made the massive decision to drop their longtime worldwide distributor, Vinshine Audio, transitioning to a direct-to-consumer sales model.
Okay, wait. I have to push back hard on the narrative around this because the math doesn't look great for the consumer at first glance.
How so?
Well, if a manufacturer cuts out their worldwide distributor, they instantly save the 20 or 30% margin that the dealer was previously taking.
Right.
The community expectation was that the retail price of the Pontus would drop accordingly. But Denafrips kept the retail price exactly the same. That looks like a textbook corporate cash grab. They cut out the middleman and simply pocketed the extra profit margin while spinning it as a business pivot.
And that was the exact accusation levied against them on the forums. It looked like pure greed.
Yeah.
But this is where the physical teardown fundamentally changes the narrative. When Jay-Z Aggie opened the chassis and found the $4,000 Venus internals, the financial strategy became brilliantly clear.
So they didn't pocket it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Denafrips did not pocket that 20% margin as corporate profit. They reinvested that exact margin directly into the bill of materials for the hardware.
So instead of dropping the price of the DAC by, say, $400, they spent that $400 upgrading the DSP board, the CRA capacitors, and the internal architecture to Flagship specs.
Exactly. It was a lateral financial move for the company, but an exponential upgrade for the buyer. And more importantly, keeping the retail price flat protected their existing customer base.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, if Denafrips had slashed the retail price of a brand new Pontus to $1,500, the resale value of every used Pontus DS on the secondary market would have plummeted overnight.
Early adopters would have lost their investment.
Right. By holding the retail price steady but massively upgrading the internal hardware, they protected the used market value for loyal customers while delivering unprecedented flagship-level technology to new buyers.
That is a fascinating masterclass in brand management. They elevated the price-to-performance ratio entirely through engineering rather than engaging in a race to the bottom on retail pricing.
It really is impressive.
Okay, let's pull all of these threads together. The Denafrips Pontus 15th Anniversary Edition is definitively not a marketing gimmick. By taking the elite computational engine and rapid discharge CRA capacitors of their $4,000 Venus flagship and dropping them into a $2,000 package, they have redefined value in this tier. They wrapped those hypersensitive 0.05% tolerance resistor ladders in an 11-kilogram metal vault, completely isolating the analog signal from electromagnetic noise using gapeless dual O-ring transformers. Combined with the mathematically flawless I²S data path and the time domain accuracy of the NOS mode, the result is a piece of machinery that has been wildly accepted by the audiophile community.
With very satisfied customers.
Yes. It boasts phenomenal build quality, deeply satisfied customers, and a sound signature that restores the physical weight of live music. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Good question.
If you love the boundless library of high-resolution streaming, but you find yourself fatigued after an hour of critical listening, well, if your digital files lack the texture, the depth, and the emotional resonance of a classic analog format, this deep dive proves you don't necessarily have to abandon the convenience of digital audio.
You really don't.
It proves that with obsessive attention to power isolation, microscopic resistor precision, and flawless clock timing, modern engineering can strip away the digital glare and inject the breadth and reality of a live performance straight into your living room.
This raises an important question, though, one that challenges the very foundation of audio reproduction.
What's that?
Well, for decades, the magic of analog gear, like the allure of a needle tracing the groove of a vinyl record, has been deeply rooted in its physical imperfections. The continuous, unbroken nature of the medium naturally produces dense harmonic structures that our brains recognize as real.
Right, the oil painting.
Exactly. But if advanced digital architecture like the Pontus 15th can now mathematically analyze those specific analog characteristics and flawlessly reconstruct that organic sweetness and phase coherence using a physical ladder of microscopic resistors, are we rapidly approaching an event horizon where the human ear will literally lack the biological capacity to distinguish between a purely digital file and a physical analog master tape? If the rigid digital grid becomes so incredibly dense, so perfectly timed, and so physically grounded that it flawlessly mimics reality, does the fundamental distinction between analog and digital even matter anymore?
That is a wild paradigm-shifting thought to leave on, because at that point, you are no longer staring at the rigid pixels. The technology completely disappears, the machinery gets out of the way, and you're finally just standing in the museum experiencing the painting. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.